Meeting to order.
Just one announcement.
Just one announcement.
Okay.
I'd like to announce that we did have an executive session from 9 o'clock to 9:04 to talk, is it considered
Litigation.
Okay. To talk about, so we had an executive session from 9 p.m. to 9:04.
There was an executive session from 9 o'clock to 9:04 to discuss possible litigation
And real estate
and
issues.
real estate issues.
Okay, so just for the record, we might address that.
Now we go into the vacancy board.
Thank you. To begin the meeting here tonight, I know I take exception to both the board and the solicitor that everybody came here tonight to talk about the warehouse, when I believe the majority of the people came here tonight to find out who the new supervisor was going to be. And it was brought up by one of the gentlemen in the last row over there why the vacancy board wasn't held first instead of last. And to my absolute amazement, Madam Chairman said it was advertised that way. When it was advertised that way, and that's not what I asked for. When I talked with the solicitor a week and a half ago, I set an agenda to be held at 7 o'clock. This isn't even my agenda. It's not even what I wrote down as an agenda. And I wanted to be first, to fill the board, to fill the seats, so we could vote on these issues, which obviously Secretary, Treasury, Manager, all these things are vitally important and get this township to move forward. So in answer to your question, why is this second? It's because Madam Chairman asked it to be.
Fair enough, thank you.
It was not my call.
No, it's her decision. You don't vote.
Why? I don't know.
No, I'm saying you don't vote like you voted all night, saying aye to how an agenda is set up. She just set it up. Is that
For
what
the
you're
record,
saying?
I did not set up your vacancy board
You
agenda.
changed the time.
Okay, our regular meeting is at 7 o'clock.
I-
That's what we have. Okay,
Vacancy
so
board was
that's
to be
what it
held
is.
at 7.
But you brought up the issue of the agenda, and I did not set your agenda for the vacancy board. This
You
is
had
what
a
I
statement by
I-
Board of Supervisors. That
I
was
did
not on
not
my
come up with
agenda.
this either, so don't blame this on me.
All
Okay,
right, let's
that's
go
what it
with
is.
it.
Yeah, you were asking for transparency. I'm trying to provide it.
Well, I am too here, sir.
Now, we're here tonight, we have 5 candidates who express interest in the open position. Josh Meck, Joe Rutterow, Jeffrey Futchko, Carl Weston, and John Williams. We had a meeting here 10 days ago. We interviewed the people, which my personal opinion should have been done in front of all of you, which 20 years ago was done in front of everyone. There was a meeting here, we had a vacancy board one time in the history of this township, February 22nd, 2002, and the interviews were done in front of everyone. Regardless, we did the interviews, all the interviewers were asked the same question, no bias one way or the other. We've narrowed it down to 2 candidates. And I'd like those 2 candidates to come forward and make statements here tonight in front of the audience. Those 2 candidates are Joe Rotaro and Josh Meck. Will they please come forward?
You want us one at a time, Mr. Chairman?
Yes, please.
All right, I'm Josh Meck. Sorry, I'm going to read from this. I'll deviate from it here and there, but I'm Josh Meck, and I ran for supervisor during this last election, and I lost by 14 votes. So I'm looking at, if I'm given the opportunity, I'm looking forward to helping the community in a bigger way to move forward. First of all, I want to thank all the supporters that I had. I had a huge bipartisan support going forward. It's because of all of you that you pushed me to do more for the community. Being that I have been so involved with many people in the community, I'm currently the vice president of Flew Baseball Association, so I have an impact on a lot of the kids that are in our community. I'd say about 90% of the children that we have in here are Maiden Creek residents. So I am involved with a lot of people. I was born and raised in Fleetwood, so I went through K through 12 at Fleetwood. So along with Fleetwood Baseball Association, I still know a lot of the families that stayed here, the young families that have stayed in Maiden Creek Township, and they want to know what's going on. So I think that having a younger environment in the township also brings this acceptance into our room. If you look around, there's not too many people my age sitting out here. So I feel that I can contribute more to the community in a positive way, and I don't look at myself as a politician. I'd rather be looked at as a neighbor, one of your neighbors, in a community of caring neighbors. So my goal is to see this community flourish. You know, we're essentially, as a supervisor, you're a custodian of our neighborhood. You know, this place is going to be around long after all of us are dead and gone, and all we can do is try to do the best thing we can to make sure that it's here around forever, that we're not in a failing situation, that we're not slipping down the slopes of poverty, and we're not going to turn this into a metropolitan area. This is a rural area with a lot of people that have local ties to farming, agriculture, activities that are acceptable outside of a city environment. This role is to do the best at guiding and making decisions that benefit all the citizens of Maiden Creek. These decisions are only footsteps along our journey. So, like I said, going forward, if you fast forward this 100 years from now, nobody's really going to care. As long as you didn't do a major screw up, they're not going to really care. They want to see that we're progressing and making the right decisions for everybody. It's not one person. During my campaign, I would say my slogan was Maiden Creek needs a voice. It truly does. The community needs a voice. You guys are all here tonight for a reason, because there's outrage about the potential of this warehouse, and you should be here. You should be concerned about that. This impacts everybody, not just me, not just them, everybody. So again, if I'm given the opportunity, I'm looking forward to helping to grow the community and to develop the community as far as bringing new people into this area. I shouldn't say into the area, but the younger people, get them more involved in this community, because there isn't too much young involvement in here, and that's a shame. We have a lot to offer in Maiden Creek Township. So, if there's I guess we're not taking questions at this point, but I did a lot during the campaign, and I pushed. There's a lot of you guys that came out to, I had a meet and greet that people showed up at and asked some questions, and I'm thankful that they did, and it was a definite partisan support that I had to come out to ask those questions. So, if you came out to that, I appreciate it, and I hope we'll be your township supervisor. Thank you.
Will there be an opportunity for questions?
After we hear for the next candidate, please.
Good evening, Board. Mr. Chairman, Supervisor Frank, Supervisor Fiedler. Good evening, everyone. My name is Joe Rotero. I live in 283 Longleaf Drive in Onalani Heights. I've been a resident of Maiden Creek since 2000, and I quickly jumped in 2001 and got involved in my community, much like Mr. Meck is interested in getting involved in his community at this time. I have spent the last 20 years serving our community in different capacities along the way. I sat in Mr. Brown's chair 20-some years ago as the vacancy chair and appointing a new supervisor with circumstances not exactly like we're facing today, but certainly there was a change. A supervisor resigned, and the vacancy board was activated, and I was the chairman of that meeting, and that selection was made, and the township got back on track. And let's hope tonight that's exactly what happens. If this board makes a decision to appoint the next supervisor, that we get back on track, because we're not really on track right now. I had also served on the Planning Commission. Mr. Brown and I served together in the Planning Commission. I was involved for about 3.5 years, was elected township auditor. I was also elected your township supervisor in 2008, and then again I was re-elected in 2014, and my term ended in 2019. The reason for my departure from the Board of Supervisors, because I just love serving my community. I did try to run for county. I ran for county commissioner. I was not successful, and so anyway. Some of the other boards that I've served on, I've served on the Reading Regional I served on the Reading Regional Airport Authority up until December of this past year. And prior to that, I was served on the Reading Area Transportation Study Committee in the coordinating committee. And I had served on that as a capacity of representing townships of the second class for about 6 years. When I did not run for supervisor, I came off that board, but due to the fact that there was an appointment, the Reading Regional Airport has a seat on that, and I continued to serve in that capacity as well. I have 20 years of township experience. I think that I have worked with both Supervisor Fiddler and also with Supervisor Frank. And so at this time where we need to get the township back on track, where we need a steady hand, I believe that I can step in and be able to help the township and the elected officials live up to their sworn duties to their office and to the residents of Maiden Creek in making sure that our community continues to move forward. I don't think in the 12 years that I served as a supervisor that the room was ever this packed. So congrats to everyone for coming out and being involved. But there's different issues before this board than there had been during my 2 terms. Also, I had, during my term as supervisor, both terms, I served as your Northern Berks Regional Police Commissioner and also as the alternate. Back in the time, we alternated between supervisors, and at some point then we had at least one supervisor was always appointed to the police commission, and then we've had other folks as the alternate. So what I would say to the board is that this is your decision. This is not Mr. Meck's decision, nor is it my decision. It is this board's decision to figure out who they want to work with them in helping Maiden Creek Township get back get back on track. This decision tonight needs to be an educated decision, not an emotional decision. It would be a disservice to this township and our residents if this was an emotionally charged decision versus who is going to be able to step in and who is going to be able to help when we have a conditional use now before us. We don't have a township manager. There are a lot of really concerning issues that I feel we need to get fixed and fixed fast. But once again, this is not my decision, it's your decision, and hopefully you will make the right decision as history will record your decision on who you will appoint as your next township supervisor. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Do we have any public comments on tonight's? We'll go by row. First row, please. Anyone want to comment on the 2 candidates in question? Second row?
Second row, I guess.
Yes.
Good luck to both of you. If he's still here. I don't care what I'm a conservative patriot, but I don't care if you're Democrat or Republican. I just hope you and the other esteemed board members do the right thing. I mean, you have to see both sides of the coin. You know, the pros of a warehouse, small that they may be, it's zero. But come on, do the right thing. This warehouse is a terrible idea. If you talk about community, do the right thing, then do it. I speak for everybody, I think, when I say that. Good luck to both. Again, I don't care what your denomination is for politics. Save that for state and federal. There's plenty of that. No warehouse. Thank you. Good luck.
Thank you. Yes, sir.
What he said.
Second the motion.
Good. Any more what he said? Third row? Fourth row?
That comes to me, I guess. Third.
Yeah, go ahead.
I agree with both these gentlemen. You made a comment about that we're just here for this. No, we're not. We're here to make sure single-family homes go up there. And sir, you made your comment about Section 8 and so on. Well, guess what? You're absolutely correct. Federal, county, but each county oversees it, and then if the county doesn't do a good job, the federal government takes it over. But this area was designed for single-family homes. And this isn't about racism, because I've had it with that, okay? This is about quality of life.
Yep.
And everyone in this country, everyone can abstain them of quality of life they want to work. So, I don't take offense, so I'm good with it. But again, no, 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 period, across the board. Thank you. And good luck to both of you, whatever.
Thank you. Any other comments in the next row?
At 4,
Yes, go ahead.
I'm still Mark Lucina, I still live in Limestone Village.
Just move.
This is, this whole meeting is kind of moot. If it wasn't for, unfortunately, you becoming ill, the whole thing would have been decided and we wouldn't have need for this, either running first or second, depending on what order. I think a lot of people are here, as we said before, because of the mailer that went out and informed everybody of the warehouse issue. People that say that you don't have to have Republicans and Democrats, that's saying we don't need competition. Competition is good for the community, it's good for the county, it's good for the state, it's good for the country. If you want a one-party rule, you can go to Argentina or China or Russia or whatever, you know. So it's good that we have discussions. If you think that having no discussions is good and no interface and controversy or whatever is good, try moving to Philly or Reading or Allentown or Camden or Trenton. I lived in between Camden and Trenton, and I saw the Democrat Party machine move down and introduce pay to play and loaning money to candidates and paying back money. So there is a need for two viewpoints. If you like high gas prices, if you like open borders, if you like illegals planing into Scranton, I hope you're listening to me because I'm talking to you.
I am
precisely.
listening, sir, but this is not
If you
Main
like
Street. This
defund,
isn't Washington.
if you like defunding, all right, I'll be more specific. If you like men competing in women's sports in the high school, if you like boys going into girls' restrooms, if you like higher taxes, that's the Democrat Party. Mr. Meck, when he ran, he's a nice guy, very good personality. If we wanted a good personality, I would say Johnny Carson ought to be available. We need people that have experience, people that know what's going on and what they're doing. It's the whole point of this meeting moot because it's already, you've already made up your mind. No, wait a minute, pardon me, I'm still not done. When Mr. Farley ran, he ran in a primary election, he beat his opponent, he ran in the general election, he got signatures as a Republican, he ran as a Republican, and he won. Whether he won by 81 million votes or 14 votes, he still won. I was to the reorganization meeting because he was a neighbor of mine. And what went on at that meeting was a disgrace. If parents that were here and causing a disruption, I saw we had an officer here, that was needed then. And some of the people that were causing that should have been escorted out of this room. I've heard it said Mr. Farley is not a good candidate. How do we know? I believe he appointed you. Or you're there because he appointed you. Okay?
Yes, sir.
Now, Mr. Farley was booed, he was harassed, he was interrupted, he was threatened, and there's no need for that. Now, why do we have to do that to get him out of there? Is that what we're trying to do, to get another person that some people really wanted in there in the first place? in that position? If that's the case, that's not right. And if a guy ran as a Republican and was elected as a Republican, then a Republican should replace him. Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Hi, Dave. Yeah, I kind of went back to what Mark said. When I ran because I love this country, and I believe if we're gonna take this country back, we need to take it back from the bottom up. I was all about unity and bringing the people together. The reason why I resigned is exactly that. I couldn't stand the bullshit that went on in between. This political tug of war, insinuations, name calling, he's this, he's that. I mean, I've been accused of forming militias and every other damn thing. Well, guess what? We have the right to our Second Amendment rights in forming gun groups in lieu of what was going on with Antifa and BLM at the time, okay? When you look at what they did throughout our country. I ran because it was going to also be a stepping stone possibly for State House or Pennsylvania Senate. I was very serious about my endeavor. I love being your township supervisor. I have mixed emotions now. I'm kind of like in a state of mourning. I don't regret my decision because my wife had a few heart attacks over this, in case anybody didn't know that. Her stress was astronomical. It got to the point where it was kind of like pulling us apart. We were on the verge of like real bad nervous type things happening. One of us is going to have a nervous breakdown, I'm sure. We love people. We've done things in this community to help this community. We're in this community 34 years. 34 years. And Lord knows what we've done for the school, for the park. And I didn't deserve that. I love this township. I love my people. I was forced out because I couldn't stand how it was affecting my family. And I'm not going to mention names or this one or that one. I know when people running for office, this goes on. You know, the name calling, the insinuations, the accusations. But it's got to stop. If we're going to take this country back, and I agree with Mark, it's got to be from the freaking ground up. We've got to unite as Americans. We're Americans here. And don't let one person in this room, or in this township, in this county, in this state, deny it. What's going on in D.C., we're seeing our country going down the drain to communist control, the deep state. Make no doubt about it. Make no doubt about it. And we've got to unite as Americans. This is all going to start when we go to the voting booths. In the primary and in November's election. We need to put people in there that love this country, that are going to represent our country from the top down and bottom up. But that's why I resigned, because I didn't want, you know, this kind of bullshit going on anymore, okay? So, good luck to Josh and to Joe. May the best man win. But let's get united and stop fighting and bickering. We've got a lot of stuff to do, okay? A lot of business. Thank you.
Any other comments back here, sir?
Yes, Tim Wales. I would like to urge our two elected supervisors, David Frank and Heidi Fiedler, to come to a consensus on whoever the next supervisor is, so that we do not resort to an unelected person making the decision for the township. In a republic, we vote for our supervisors, and in the event of a vacancy, you're our elected reps, and we look to you to come to consensus on who the next supervisor should be. It's fundamentally opposed to the ideals of a republic for an unelected person to be a tiebreaker. So I'm urging the two of you to agree on one of the candidates. Also, I think it's fundamentally wrong in a republic that the last place finisher would be selected for the position that the public spoke through their vote to choose someone else. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else in the back room? Yes, sir.
Yeah, hi, Greg Geschwind, I live in Melrose Place. So, all the other stuff that was said about Republicans and Democrats, all that nonsense really makes me cringe. We're just looking for a township supervisor, right? We're not fighting Antifa, we're not going to war, right? So Josh did lose by 14 votes. And early in this republic, when we voted for a president, the person who came in second became vice president. And then they would become president if something happened to the president. So the idea of the person who came in second place moving into that role is not unprecedented at all, nor un-American. So I'm going to be in favor of Josh being selected as the township supervisor.
Thank you. Yes, sir?
Jim Cicchini, East Western. My question is directed to Joe Rutherall. I don't mean to put you on the spot. But, this is a question that goes back to when you first took the courses in supervisory boot camp. Can you tell us about some of the subjects that they covered in that? That's what I mean.
Well, I mean, when I was elected supervisor in 2008, yes, I went and attended PSATs. They provide a, what they call a boot camp training.
Right.
It was several, if 2 or 3, possibly 4 Saturdays held at Albright College. And that's where new supervisors would go and they would start to learn about what their role has just become.
I'm educated. Yeah.
And so, you know, I got a lot of value out of that. I thought that that was great. I had been fortunate enough to have previously served on the planning commission. I knew kind of how the township operated, and it was a natural step. And, you know, of course, the planning commission makes recommendations to the board of supervisors on land development plans. And so I further went on and got my master planner. So the Center of Excellence at Albright offered a class. It was optional. If you wanted to take the courses, you could take them. I took them, and I was in one of the first or second graduating classes of township officials that got their master planner certificate. I needed to learn about that responsibility. It's a huge responsibility. I mean, we're talking a $4.5 million budget. We've got a police department that is the single biggest line item in it. We have our representative, our workers are represented, their union represent, they belong to a union. You have those contracts, you have police officer contracts. And there's a lot of tough decisions that have to be made up there.
I know.
And I was fortunate enough to have had 12 years, and you know, I won election, re-election, and you know, was proud of the service to Maiden Creek, and you know, once again, would like to just step in and try to get us back on track. But the training, any training is good, because that is a lot different on that side of the table than it is on this side of the table. I was fortunate enough to go on to a board that I could learn from other board members. That, you know, there was a lot of things, but that's, you know, that was 2008, and you know, so. But I value that. I think anytime the township can make their, you know, have their supervisors or employees get trained and learn more about it, I think it's great.
Were you encouraged to run again, or was it your own decision?
It's my own decision. You mean as far as making myself available for this right now? Or?
Yeah.
Yes.
Like no one told you, hey, here's an opportunity, you gotta come.
Nope.
Okay.
I've been very blessed that the residents of Maiden Creek Township have elected me twice to sit at that table. We, not just myself, the other board members, we worked together, we kept taxes low, we spent your money the best way we thought we could spend it, and I think we are one of the townships that has the best bang for the buck for our millage. We're serviced by, you know, Northern Berks Regional Police. We've got a great police department, and you know, that history, by the way, folks, that predeceased, that's before me. This township has been blessed with a conservative, and I'm not making that an RD thing. There's plenty of Rs that are conservative, plenty of Ds that are conservative. This board has traditionally been able to make sure that they spend our money wisely. And I think that's been done.
May I just ask,
Yes,
how was it that night when Joe gave the resignation for Joe, you all had already submitted your resume? Because how did that happen?
Because I saw the agenda and it said that there was a resignation of the supervisor, but if I can take you back until the reorganization meeting in January, Mr. Frank resigned. And then he unresigned. And so when Mr. Farley, and here's a guy that just gave 12 years of his life to the township, and I'm like, what's going on here? And I made myself available. And once again, folks, this is their decision. This isn't my decision, it's not Mr. Meck's decision, and actually at this point, it's not even our residents' decision. It's where we are in the process. We're governed by the second-class township code. I gotta tell you, I've spent a lot of time reading it. I'm not an expert in the second-class township code, but I do understand it. I've had that opportunity, and I encourage anybody to run for elected office and get involved. Jump in with both feet, learn. You gotta learn, because it's a lot of responsibility out there. And I just think at this point in time, I can step in because it's obvious that there's a division here. We need to get things back together. I can do that. I will work very hard at trying to bridge the differences so that our township is, and I know the person's still here, but they mentioned that the township, they're afraid to mention where they live now because, people were like, oh my gosh, what's going on over there? That hurts, and I think I can help. But anyway, thank you.
Yes, sir.
I know tonight's not an emotional decision, but the emotion I have is I'm very tired right now. My name's Eric Luckenbill. I'm 36 years old. Look, this is literally the last place that I want to be right now, and I hope I do not come to a meeting for a very long time after this. I'm one of the 962 people that voted for Josh Meck in fall. I'm a Republican. I've been a Republican my entire life. I've lived here since 2011 very proudly. I pay my taxes. I work my butt off. I teach government and politics for a living. And for a gentleman to tell me that my vote doesn't matter or Josh Meck should not have a job or get this position because he went through the process, he filed the paperwork with the county, he won a primary election that was contested, he lost by 14 votes. Over 1,900 people of our township showed up to this election in fall, and he lost by 14 votes. And for you to say that because he lost by 14 votes, he shouldn't get the position because he got second, I have a big problem with that. I'm a voter. I'm a citizen. I teach my students that votes matter and that citizenship matters, and that's why I'm here tonight. My 8-year-old asked me today, why do you keep going to these meetings? And I said, because I'm waiting for somebody to do the right thing, so I don't have to go to these meetings anymore. Josh got 962 votes 5 months ago, and we're asking him, or we're asking somebody, to fill a position for the next 18 months. He's old enough to be president. I think he should be considered for this position. I know he's not the most experienced person in the world, but he's here to take that opportunity. He's spent his own money. He's gone through, he's knocked on doors, he's asked for votes. I've knocked on doors and asked for votes for him. He got more votes, 962, than anybody else in this room has ever gotten running for this position, except Mr. Frank, who got 1,049 2 years ago. Congratulations. No one else got 962 votes. That's a lot of votes.
What about this guy right here?
He quit.
He got more votes there than me.
I understand that, but he has the ability to be on that table right now, sir. And once again,
I couldn't do this, sir.
and I'm not trying to bring that up. He did. And once again, thank you for your service and for all you've done. But what I'm saying tonight is that those 962 people that voted, Republicans, Democrats, and the highest turnout that we've had for this Board of Supervisors in 12 years since I've lived here, our vote matters. And I'm now sitting here for the 3rd hour of this meeting because my vote matters. And I think Josh deserves a position to fill this position, and I hope that if you get it, congratulations. And I hope you run in 2 years if you don't get it, because I thought you did a great job serving our township before. I really appreciate you. I just think that votes matter, and I agree with what you said, sir, as well. I really hope Ms. Fiedler and Mr. Frank both do the right thing tonight, and they support Josh, so Mr. Brown doesn't even have to make this position. I mean, I asked my 8-year-old earlier tonight, I said, the guy who got first stepped down, who should get the position? He said the guy that got second. I think it's a pretty easy answer, and like I said, thank you for your time, and I really don't want to come to the next meeting, so please make the right decision. So thank you.
Thank you, sir. In the back?
Yeah. Hi, my name's Donna. I've lived in this township For 65 years, I've seen a lot of changes. I've heard the word inexperienced several times tonight, and sometimes that's a good thing to put on the board. Now we have experience. That's also a good thing. My comment is I'm going to be controversial on this. I think both of them should be on the board, and Heidi, I need you to step down so there's less controversy.
Okay. Any other comments? Yes, ma'am.
Yes. I personally like Heidi, and I think she's a remarkable woman, and I actually came in here after I got this card, and I actually saw those blueprints. And those blueprints are disgusting. Heidi's an excellent person. She's very smart, and that's all I have to say about it.
Thank you, ma'am. Is anyone out in the back that wants to comment?
Mr. Chairman, they've indicated no, right?
One fellow here?
My name
That's okay.
My name is Mr. Kemmerer. I live on East Webster Road. My daughter is Diane Hollenbach. I'm here to make a comment. I've lived here all my life. I used to come to every one of these meetings, and I've known Mr. Rowe here for a long time. I've never, ever in all my life seen this township in such disarray as it is now. And that's a fact. And I lived here all my life. And it's disgusting. And I'm not an emotional guy. I know some of you here. In fact, I know that guy did all with him for a long time. But it's time must change. So whoever you pick needs to be a common factor. Both each gentlemen there, they'll do a good job for you. I know they will. Like I said, I know Joe for a long time. I don't know Mr. Mack, but he's my neighbor. He lives down the road from where I live. And all I would recommend is whatever it is, just keep in mind this township's got to get back on track the way it was. You know, whether it's a solicitor, I see a new solicitor, I see a new recording secretary, and you know, it's like big changes. Now's the time to say, make it right. All right? That's all I have to say.
Thank you. Any other comments in the back that we may have missed?
Mary Demick, Amalani Heights.
Yes?
I would like the two supervisors to not think about political party, not think about experience, because everyone here, starting a new job, doing anything, has no experience. This isn't a vote for either candidate. They both seem very worthy. I would just like you to stop and think what's good for the township. Sometimes new blood is good, sometimes experience is good. And remember, unfortunately or fortunately, we as a country elected a politician who had no experience. So stop and think what's good for all of us, please. Thank you.
She wasn't a politician.
Thank you. One more comment, please?
Yeah, John Grice, Hope Drive. At this level, local level, the party really was a lot to me. But we've got a lot of developmental issues before the township that could really change the future. I think one of my biggest concerns is how the township is working, the leadership. And whoever this person, you need to bring in the person who's going to work together as a team. And I kind of like the idea, as a team, that unanimous, leave the tiebreaker out of it. That you folks, you two are the ones who are going to have to work with this new guy, the additional member, and you two, gotta get it together so we're not losing employees, we're township employees, we're not throwing accusations around. Settle down, get to work, do what you need to do to make this a better community. That's my thought. Honestly, I thought, there'd be another election for the lost supervisor, and that's would have actually been the preference. And then there wouldn't be a question about tiebreaker, who came in for a second, and let the people decide again. But the rules are what the rules are, so I'd say you two need to make the decision if your person's gonna.
Okay, thank you. Any other?
I just wanted to add, if the board can't decide, it'll go to the courts. So this is the last step before we go to the courts, then the court would make a decision. So, just so everyone understands the process we are, the Board of Supervisors had 30 days to fill it, they were unable to. The Vacancy Board has 15 days to fill that. We're here tonight, but there could be, it could be a stalemate, it could be, you know, and then it'll go to the courts. One way or the other, if it's tonight or if it goes before the courts, you'll have another supervisor here in the near future.
We're 4 days from going to court. Yes, sir.
My name's Paul Brown. You sound like a politician to me. I don't know either one of you, but I'm a Republican, and I'm proud of it. I just think Democrats got it wrong. Sorry to say. It's bad. What happened to us in the past year? We went from good to crap. It isn't right. Give this guy a chance.
All right. One word. Yes, sir.
Yeah, Dave, why don't we all say to ourselves, what is the #1 criteria? What's the most important criteria, most important issue for everybody here that we could put over to our present supervisors, for which we'd like to see the new candidate put in that position? Is it Section 8, low-income housing? What's going to be the #1 issue? And maybe we could ask both candidates how they stand on that issue.
It's not really fitting, and it biases the board on any future decisions. We don't know what's going to come up 2 or 3 years from now when all these supervisors may be here. We don't ask each one of them their particular opinion on something that may come up. That's why we choose candidates wisely ahead of time.
Right.
And a lot of the dysfunction that we see here, as well as Washington and Harrisburg, is our own making. We have voted in candidates without knowing who they really are and what they stand for.
Right.
And that's our fault. But regardless of that, the animosity, and that's been on both sides of this table, that has to stop. It's been well documented here tonight, everybody feels that way. We have to stop the name calling. It accomplishes nothing. The postcards mailed out. Serves no one. And we're not the Hatfields and the McCoys here. This is not them versus us. Let's get over that. That's not the Maiden Creek I grew up in. That's not the Maiden Creek that thousands of people have moved here in the last 30 years to start families. And it's not the Maiden Creek that I'm going to leave my kids. Enough of this garbage. We got to have mutual respect on both sides of this table. Regardless of who we choose here, there has to be some respect. There has to be some decorum. If you're going to bring criticism to the board, bring constructive criticism along with facts to support it. Not hearsay, not so-and-so said this. No, facts. They're an annoying thing, but they do work. So let's bring them up. And as a board, you've got to respond and open a debate among each other. The best expression, the ultimate expression of freedom of speech is when the citizens and their leaders can have a free flow of opinions and ideas, and then it's debated as equals. Not condescending to one another as equals. Think before you speak. All of you. If you can't do that, there's the door.
You ain't chasing
Doesn't
me
matter
out.
who we put in here tonight.
You ain't chasing me out, buddy.
It don't matter who we put in here tonight, if this stuff continues, we've gotten nowhere. So let's change, let's raise the bar. We gotta raise the bar. We're reacting to the lowest common denominator in the room every time somebody says something. You're smarter than that, all of you. Let's not go there.
In 1962, buddy, I put my life on the line for people here.
Well, thank you for your service. And I appreciate that, and so does everybody else.
We went to DEFCON 2, and there's only one more step, and the finger was on the trigger.
Sir, I have the floor. No disrespect, but we know what the veterans have done for this country. That's why we're so passionate about saving what we have now.
Don't tell me I'm not passionate about this.
And I'm not. I don't envy this position. I'm in the most unenviable position in the township. I agree with this gentleman. I don't want to be part of this.
I don't either.
But that's the rules. And it happened this way because we can't be informed voters. You got to get your head together before you win the voting booth. If you're just going to vote for a D or you're going to vote for an R, then don't vote at all. Because you might cancel out somebody who went into that voting booth who was informed.
You're wrong.
Really?
Yes, you are.
This is not a partisan position here. Partisan politics has no place here.
I think you're wrong.
Really?
Yes, I do.
Question for you, Mr.
Well, I'm sorry you feel that way, sir, because partisan politics doesn't stop a warehouse.
I'm also sorry you
Mr. Brown, I have a question for you.
Yes, sir.
You told me about thinking. I think every day I get up. And I think every day I go to sleep. But what I'm seeing and hearing right now from you is you're saying, if you don't agree with, you walk out. That's not what this country's been made. I have a simple question for you, sir. It's simple. Real simple. I'm gonna keep it down here. Why is this township not able to hold a special election and have the people of the township vote again? Why?
The charter and the bylaws don't have that position set up.
So because
That's
of the
not set up.
bylaws and the charter that this township.
This is how we resolve a vacancy in the supervisor's board.
So now, there's
Now,
another thing that we should look at in the future.
to clarify, I didn't tell anybody who disagreed with you to leave the room. I said, no, I didn't. No, I didn't say that.
You said if you don't like it, you don't do this, you get out the door.
I said if you don't
Get out the
like,
door.
if you don't like decorum and you can't come to a meeting with facts and constructive criticism, then you don't belong here. I didn't say
You
if we
said that
disagree with
if you don't like it, you can get out the door. Now, am I wrong, people?
That's what you said.
That's what he said, correct?
That's not what I said.
That's what he said.
No, it's not what I
Maybe we
said.
should have a tape recording.
Well, maybe it's already recorded, you can listen to it again.
All right?
And you listen to it the second time, you realize that that's not what I said.
Well, we'll go through the minutes then.
Mr. Chairman?
Be my guest.
If I can.
Thank you, sir.
We do have to finish up public comments.
Yes.
We have to ask the.
Public comments on the Zoom, please. Can you do that, Caitlin?
Anybody on Zoom, raise your hand.
It wasn't just because
You have one up there?
I didn't understand.
Go ahead, sir.
Thank you. Thank you. My name is John. I'm from Carrollton. I just want to make one comment. Yes, this is an election. I don't want to rehash that. But Josh Mecklenson, and I want to tell you, I voted, however I voted, doesn't really matter. I just see one gentleman up right now, as a candidate. He's the only one that demonstrated that he wanted the position by running for it. Okay? And apparently, citizens in this township voted for him. And I think that should warrant some consideration when you're looking at things. Fair is fair here. And we should put that in heavy consideration when you're looking at the two candidates. No question about Carterville, he has obviously good experience, but I think Beck should be given serious consideration for the mere fact that he took time out of his life to run for this office. He got a lot of votes, and they should be given serious consideration in all of this. Okay, that's all I wanted to say about it.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you so much. Thank
Any
you.
other comments on Zoom? Raise your hand, please.
Ms. Haldeman?
That's the one we just, okay.
Yes, I totally agree with the last guy. It's like, our votes count. We're the citizens of Maiden Creek Township, our votes count. Josh lost by a few votes, but if somebody decides to resign, it should just go to the next person. Why do we have these special meetings and stuff? Josh won by default, because Joe resigned. But Josh's numbers show so much potential of what we, as a township people, want, that to hold special elections is a discredit to us. That's how I feel. We already voted for him. He lost by a few votes. It's a discredit to us to hold these other meetings, have other people apply, when we already, technically, we already voted for Josh Meck. And that's where I struggle to understand why we have all these special meetings when Josh already won. That's what I need clarification on. Thank you.
So just
Thank
to,
you.
just to clarify that point, it is the second-class township code, so it's not the township's bylaws, so it's not really something you can look at, it's the state code that tells us how this process goes forward. And it does call for another election. However, what it does is, Mr. Farley's position would have lasted 6 years, right?
Correct.
What this does, this appointment is just till the next municipal election, which is next year. So, what's next, it's not this year, it's next year,
Next
so.
year.
So it'll be next year, so this position, instead of being a 6-year term, is really gonna turn into a 2-year term. So next year, Dave, are you up next year?
No.
Heidi's up next year, and so that'll be on the ballot as a 6-year term, and then Mr. Farley's position will be up for a 4-year term. So there will be 2 positions you will vote on next year. So this is just to fill the gap, and that's why this procedure's in here, because to have a special municipal election for one position would cost thousands of dollars to do that. So this is an expedited way to get somebody in to fill the position so that the business of the township can move forward.
And one of the questions that was asked all the candidates is if they are appointed, would they run in 2 years? Would they run for re-election in 2 years? Thank you. Any other on Zoom?
That's the same person.
Seeing none? Okay. And it's public comments. Any other statements by?
I would like to make a statement, and hopefully this, can I use this one? Thank you.
I appreciate everybody's comments here tonight. I mean, obviously it's very passionate. We've had an election, it was close. But we're at a point at this time where we have a decision to make as a board on a candidate to replace a person who resigned. I compare this to when you have a serious issue and you look for a doctor. Do you look for the most competent person, the most experienced person, the person that will be able to help you get better and recover fully? Or do you look for somebody who isn't simply somebody's politician? But this is, excuse me, I have the floor. I look for the best qualified person. I want somebody who has the appropriate training, who has the level of experience, they know how to address the issues, and they're going to make sure that in the case of a patient, they recover quickly. In case if they need surgery or whatever it might be, that they're going to get the best care and the best recovery possible. We have an opportunity here, and because of the vacancy, to make a decision here to make a short-term appointment for a township supervisor. As all of you are aware, we have an application for a 930,000 square foot warehouse in this township. We just received it. Like I said, I didn't know about it until March 3rd, or March 11th, excuse me, and started reviewing it. It's proposed to be 60 feet high. It's proposed to have 1,700 trucks or vehicles per day. It'll be a sorting type of warehouse. It's an area that's known for having sinkholes. It's proposed to be right at a location of a roundabout that could introduce 140 extra vehicles, mostly trucks, at a peak hour during the day. That's some of the facts. That's what's going on here. We have 2 people that we narrowed down the selection to for supervisor. We have 1 candidate that has 12 years of township supervisor experience that I served on for 2 years with him. And to be clear, he and I are not friends. We don't agree on everything. But I do know him, and I have another person, it's under consideration, who has absolutely no experience. He's basically a rookie. He's had no training in land development.
Were you a rookie once? You were a
Excuse me, sir. He has no experience in the planning, land development planning, no experience with zoning, no experience in serving on a police commission. And yeah, definitely there are times when people come on board and they go to what they call the boot camp with PSATs. which is a very intensive program, and it just gives you the basics. It makes an introduction to all the different areas of what a supervisor is going to deal with. A conditional use application is a quasi-judicial process where the Board of Supervisors serves essentially as a panel that makes a decision. It's like a judge. It's a legally binding decision. Excuse me, just, if everybody can be quiet. Sorry, sir, no.
You know my
Mr.
name.
Chairman.
Let her finish, please. This is the decorum we need, please.
So again, a conditional use hearing is very, very important because it is quasi-judicial. I served on a board of supervisors where we heard multiple conditional use hearings. There was one for a heliport. It went on for 5 months. It was quite intensive. But the thing is that it gave me a lot of good experience in how to deal with that. We had a court reporter. We had several parties that actually entered their appearance into that conditional use process. We heard expert testimony from a number of different type of experts. This is likely to happen again with this application. This is a big project on an 80-acre tract of land. If it's approved, again, it has to meet the criteria of whether it does not have, potentially not have a negative impact on the health, safety, and welfare of this township. And I take that very seriously. I also think it's important that we have the most experienced people sitting here to help make that decision. I also have to add that Josh Meck is one of my neighbors. I have an email regarding his shooting off of fireworks last July. It was an email. No, I'm going to bring this up because this is an email from Diane Hollenbach, wrote to the chief of police. She said she received a call from Josh Mack. He said that he held a 45-minute display of fireworks on July 4th. Diane says in her own email, she says, Mr. Mack is running for supervisor, which means in my book he must be held to a higher standard. This email was sent to the chief of police, and it says here in response to what the chief had to say, Diane says specifically that Josh Mack was bragging that he is so important and such a great guy, the cops didn't cite him for shooting fireworks off in a residential area in direct violation of our fireworks ordinance. I think it's important that we have people that serve on this board who will not just thumb their nose at a serious ordinance and because they're going to run for supervisors.
Can we look up your background?
Yeah. Excuse me, I'm just going to finish with
But
this.
Mr. Brown, it's exactly what
Make it your last point, please.
But this is really important. Again, it's important that somebody here who will honor the code that we have here and will follow what the rules are, and especially in the application, but we're also talking about all of these things that we do. We had a long meeting here tonight. We had a long agenda. And I know Josh Mack is standing back there. I asked him this question during the interview process, and he says he complied with the fireworks ordinance. However, if you look in section 114 of the ordinance, it does not allow
Sounds to me like a patriotic guy.
Excuse me. It does not allow anybody to shoot off fireworks, large display fireworks in any residential section of the township.
Scare your animals, right?
All right, Mr. Chairman, can you maintain order, please?
Please.
We can have people yelling out and back and forth.
Well, why don't you get on with this?
I am going to.
Instead of trashing this guy. She's trashing this guy.
Please.
That's wrong.
All right, just.
So the important point is that we have a fireworks ordinance that mandates that people do not fire off large-scale fireworks in the residential area. That's all I was saying.
Gee, thanks for being non-biased.
I have one comment back.
I'd like to rebuttal to that. First of all, there's inaccuracies in there because I came into the township to talk to Diane Hollenbach, and I did tell her that, just so you know, I am going to be setting off fireworks, which are perfectly legal in the state of Pennsylvania. And I do know the ordinance because I have a copy of it, just in case if somebody called it in, because somebody brought it up at the primary, what I thought about it. So, mind you, my birthday is July 1st. 4th of July, we're allowed to shoot fireworks off in this township until 11 o'clock. I'm done by 10:30. Did I set off a large show for everybody in the neighborhood? You're absolutely right, I did. I set off some fireworks, but they were all purchased in Allentown, and they were all perfectly legal from a vendor that sells all over the state of Pennsylvania. I got the receipts and everything to show. I really don't know what that has anything to do with the township supervisor position, especially because I was in compliance.
Okay, and I asked the solicitor to look at this, and can you comment on that, please?
Sure. Go ahead.
So the
fire ordinance code in this township says you are not allowed to set them off in a residential zone. So you may be perfectly.
Well, you better canvass the town.
I'm just saying what the code
You
says.
better canvass the town.
I'm not gonna say you can't drive 56 miles per hour in a 55-mile zone. You're not gonna get pulled over every time, but you could get cited for it because your property is in a residential zone. So even though you comply with all the other laws of purchasing them and they're legal in other places, they are not legal in a residential zone in this township.
For the 4th of July.
Right.
At any time.
Okay.
Glad you're so American up there.
I'm not saying, Josh, I'm not saying I agree with it, I'm just telling you what the code says. Just like there's a speed limit sign on the road, that's what the law says.
I'm done.
Okay, public comment's over for the moment. Any other statements by?
The only thing I want to say is this. If I'm going to a doctor, I've got a choice of going to an experienced doctor, or I have a choice of going to a doctor who just graduated from school, who has the latest innovative techniques at his toolbox. Okay? I've got the opportunity of going to a doctor who's been around a while but hasn't been back to school. Am I going to make a decision? Sure I am. I'm going to somebody. When our government was started, nobody had any experience. There were no schools. Nobody went to school to become a politician. The way we pick politicians were people from our communities, to grow in our communities. We picked young people so that we had fresh ideas. And every idea that comes to our board is going to be beneficial, whether it's young, middle-aged, or old. So it doesn't matter whether it's young or old, or it's experienced or inexperienced, because this plan was never made before. So we can say, okay, we've got somebody experienced. Nobody's experienced in that plan. So, we're all going to look at it. We're going to make our decisions based on what we're allowed to by law. And that's how we're going to move forward. And we're going to move forward tonight with picking a supervisor that's going to sit up here and be able to help us. And it doesn't matter whether they're young or old. They're dedicated enough to be here. And it doesn't matter what party they are. It doesn't matter what sex they are. It doesn't matter what age they are. We've got to look at it that way. We're a community. We're going forward as a community. We're going to look forward. We're going to look into our future. We're not going to live forever. I think somebody said that. We're not going to live forever. So this community is going to outlive us. And that's what we got to think about. So younger thoughts, older thoughts, they all come together. Every thought counts. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. The chair opens up nominations to fill the vacancy seat on the board. Do I hear a motion?
I'll move that we nominate or appoint Joe Renero.
Do I have a second?
No.
Not hearing a second, the motion dies. Do I have any other motion for a supervisor?
I make a motion we elect Josh Mack.
I'll second that motion. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All opposed?
Nay.
Motion carries 2-1. This board is concluded.